This episode of Detail Therapy is brought to you by Shine Squad. If you pop over to patreon.com/AMYTV, you will see one of the coolest new communities around. We are calling it the Self-Improvement Sorority. Nothing against the men out there. You're welcome to join as well. But we are all about good mornings for a good life. So we talk a lot about what we can do to improve. I show a lot of behind the scenes of things like this podcast. If you ever want to see one of these podcasts actually happening live, you can join Shine Squad and get access to that. I'm also getting ready to write my second book, and I am offering behind the scenes and access to that to the Shine Squad community. In addition to all this fun stuff that we have going on, everybody is helping each other by showing ways that we can have a better morning to go after a better life. And sometimes it's not just the morning, right? It's productivity throughout the day. And so this group of people are coming together to lift each other up, and I want you to be a part of it. Go to patreon.com/AMYTV. The link is in the show notes. I'll see you in the squad.
She's an award-winning YouTuber and best-selling author, obsessed with helping you go after the life you want.
I like it.
Join her as she seeks out the stories and strategies.
Give me every little detail
of extraordinary people who found success.
I'm going to get emotional. Oh my God.
Welcome to Detail Therapy with Amy Landino.
Good morning, good life. Welcome back to Detail Therapy. In this episode, it's just you and me, baby. We're talking imposter syndrome. What is it and how do we beat it? And what we're going to do is talk about how you can identify it in yourself. It might be taking the form differently for you than it is for the person next to you or somebody else. So we're going to dig right in so we can start to beat it. Nobody wants to be an imposter, and we certainly don't need the syndrome. Before we get started, for those of you who are new to the show, my name is Amy Landino, and I will be your host. I'm a YouTube creator, professional speaker, best-selling author, and entrepreneur. I'm here to help you go after the life that you want. You can find out more by visiting youtube.com/AMYTV. Well, I got to tell you, I'm really feeling the light at the end of the tunnel. You know how when you're about to go on vacation and you're thinking, wow, that's going to be really awesome. That's how I'm feeling right now. I've probably shared this a million different ways, and you likely know it by now, but I'm very focused in the office at the moment. I am getting all the podcasts for season 3 and all of the episodes for the summer of AMYTV done before I leave for Mexico at the beginning of June. So if you can imagine, it's a lot of stuff, but I didn't want to have a disruption in content, and it's totally worth it because I'm literally taking a month and a half off of work. A whole month and a half off of work. I can't even believe I'm saying that out loud. This is not a thing I ever do. I don't even take a week off work, but we have a serious couple of vacations coming up. So I'm just feeling good vibes today. There's a lot to do, but I see the day that I'm just going to be drinking a mimosa at the resort and fully loving my life, Instagramming and still connected, but only in the ways that just bring me sheer joy. Do you know what I mean? It's like that kind of vacation that's coming on the horizon for me. Also, cannot wait to go to Italy. I've never been. If you have any tips about Italy, please tweet me or Instagram me. I am taking any tips I can possibly get. This is a really big deal in the family of the Landinos. This whole family hasn't gone together yet, my husband's immediate family. So it's going to be really, really fun. And I'm basically along for the ride. I want to do everything they want to do because I feel like they're the experts. But if I can provide a tip here and there, I would really love to do that. So pop that over to me if you got it. Today, I wanted to dig into a topic that was brought to my attention in Shine Squad. I went over there and I said, I want to do a couple of solo episodes in season 3, but I need a couple of ideas. Give me an idea of what you would want to hear from me if it was just me going on for a half an hour or so. And one of the ideas that really caught my attention was this concept of imposter syndrome. Okay, before I get into this, I kind of want to tell you a funny story about a former podcast of mine. And if you could probably still find it in the store. What was it? I think this was on the Marketing Lifestyle Show. This is what the Vlogboss Radio was called when I first launched it. And I still love that name to this day, but everything evolves over time. So when the podcast was called Marketing Lifestyle Show, I interviewed a man by the name of Guy Kawasaki. Now, if you don't know Guy, he is an established author, but he's also done a lot of great work in tech. He's worked for Apple. He's worked for Google. He's been a brand advocate for Canva. He is a name. If you don't know him, he's just, so you know, he is a name. And it was really a pleasure to be able to sit down with him that day. I'm not even kidding. I remember sitting down to do that interview, and I was excited to do it, but I'd actually canceled another one right before it because it was a good friend of mine. And I said to that person, you know, I think I'm feeling a little overwhelmed by the Guy Kawasaki interview. Can we please reschedule yours? Because I don't want to take away from yours. And I feel like I need more time to wrap my mind around what I'm going to talk to this guy about. Because I just, you know, I was a little bit fangirling at the time, not going to lie. So then I'm having a great conversation with Guy for the podcast. And I get to this particular question. I said, Guy, have you ever experienced imposter syndrome, and how do you beat it? And he was like, what is imposter syndrome? And I was like, oh, awkward. Well, it's basically when you feel like you're a fraud and that someone's going to find you out. And he's like, I have never felt like that in my life. And I was like, okay, cool. Let's move on. So there are people on this planet who have not felt this, or when they were first introduced to it, they didn't quite think of a time that it resonated with them. But I promise you, I think that's crap. I really do. I think that everybody's kind of felt like this at a moment in their life. Even if it was like you just entered a room for an event and were like, I don't know if I'm supposed to be here. Like, is someone going to tell me to leave? It could be that minute. For those of you listening to this and going, okay, yes, I've definitely felt this, you know, help me out here. I am not Guy, okay? I feel you. And so let's talk about it. What is imposter syndrome and how are we going to beat it? Well, I kind of just summarized it for you, right? When you feel like a fraud, somebody's going to find you out. You're constantly doubting yourself, or you think you're going to get exposed somehow for not quite being good enough, or in the industry long enough, or experienced enough, or you don't have the degree. Those kinds of things that eat away at you, and you think, I'm just going to keep not talking about those things because I'm really hoping that no one ever calls me out for it. You feel like you're in the wrong place because of how other people would judge you if they knew. This happens to people all the time. It doesn't matter how seasoned they are. It doesn't matter how new they are in their journey. And sometimes it happens from negativity around you. It can happen for a lot of different reasons. So it's not fun to have this going on in your head. I'm sure you are no stranger to this, right? We don't want this happening because our mindset is the thing that we have to take care of first in order to be able to move forward in our lives. In any area of success that we want, we have to have our head right first. The tips, the tactics, and all that happy stuff, the details that I ask people about in these episodes, they're awesome and they will help you, but only if your head is in the right place. So dealing with imposter syndrome is a real issue and we have to beat it. Maybe you're listening to this podcast because you're like, oh, well, Amy, just tell me how to feel. Like, tell me I'm good. And it'd be great if I just sat here and said, I believe in you, right? It's great. It sounds nice. But it's also like, okay, is this really sustainable? Is this going to be enough? Yes, I can tell you to believe in yourself all day long, fake it till you make it, all those happy phrases. But at the end of the day, your imposter syndrome is your own and it's at your own individual case. And we have to get to the heart of that so that you can work that out. And then when people like me or somebody else that you admire says something to pump you up or gives you a piece of advice, you can actually take it and run it because you believe that you have the ability to do that. So I want to discuss each of the different things that could be happening to you so that you can overcome what your case of imposter syndrome is. I got a lot of inspiration for this podcast from a book by Dr. Valerie Young. It's called The Secret Thoughts of Successful Women. She breaks down the 5 subgroups of imposter syndrome, and I want to dig into those with you today. I'm going to link to her book. I highly recommend it because I think this is an important issue. And again, secret thoughts of successful women. It's good and bad, and we need to talk about all of it. All right, so the first case of imposter syndrome is the perfectionist. What she writes here is, perfectionists set excessively high goals for themselves, and when they fail to reach a goal, they experience major self-doubt and worry about measuring up. Now, this one hits home. As a recovering perfectionist in training, because I don't even know if I can call myself a recovering perfectionist yet. This is real life for me. I don't necessarily know where this comes from. I don't know when it happened. I don't know if it's like daddy issues from my childhood or whatever the case may be. But I do know that I have a massive perfectionist issue. One of these ways that it shines through is just in my work. I like keeping my business down to a very small group of people. I recognize the things that I suck at, and I have people help me with that. And I recognize the things that I'm good at, and I try to stick with those things so I stay happy in my business. But it doesn't mean that there's still not crossover where the things that I shouldn't be doing, but I'm doing it because I'm micromanaging. Micromanaging is a massive symptom of perfectionism because we think that we can do everything best, or we feel that we have to have our hands on it in order for it to be perfect or some level of acceptable because we're trying to get to perfect. That difficulty in delegating and just frustration of something needing to get done and feeling like it's all on you because you're a perfectionist, it has to do with kind of avoiding imposter syndrome, but also contributing to it at the same time. I know that by doing that, I can at least say, I did it, I did it, I did it, I did it. And that takes away from me potentially feeling like an imposter. But at the same time, this is absolutely affecting the fact that it still exists. If you're doing something to avoid feeling something else, it's obviously present. If you feel like your work needs to be 100% perfect all of the time, this is a major indication that you are a perfectionist. So how are we going to fix this? I will say that in my own experience, a lot of my personality quirks tend to help each other because not only do I tend to be a perfectionist, but I also tend to care about making people feel good around me. So if there's ever a moment, actually a really good example of this is the upcoming interview with Gretchen Rubin. We were having some major audio issues and I had done all the testing and we had even recorded an additional podcast beforehand to make sure that all of the equipment was working properly. And it was so frustrating to me that this was happening. I was live streaming to Shine Squad at the time, and I was also talking to Gretchen, and I wanted her to see that I had my stuff together. So I basically decided in that moment, this is happening, so what are you going to do about it? Getting into a tizzy, getting frustrated, and, doing things that are unnecessary isn't going to pay off. So at the same time that I'm making mistakes and my perfectionist image is really being tattered, I'm also thinking, how do I make everybody around me know that everything is okay? Because at the end of the day, I actually do know we're going to survive this. I know she's allotted plenty of time and I know how to fix this issue. It's just going to take a little bit of scrambling around. And unfortunately, we might have to pause the conversation for just a second. And that's basically what happened. So I think the biggest thing is look at the mistakes that happen and then take them in stride. It's so natural for mistakes to happen. It's so natural for things to not go according to plan. Having a plan is helpful. It will get you in the right direction. But things not going according to plan happens all the time. So that really can hurt when you're a perfectionist. Knowing and telling yourself every day, I'm going to put my best foot forward, but it probably won't always go the way I want. And going into your day and going into situations with that in mind, I think is really helpful. The next characteristic that Dr. Young talks about is the superwoman or the Superman, right? So you stay late to the office, later than everybody else, so that you can get your day's work completed and feel like you're done, feel like you're the overachiever. Maybe you're getting stressed out when you're not getting enough downtime, or downtime just feels like a waste of time, or you feel like you've not truly earned your title, so you feel pressed to work harder and work longer than everybody else because you didn't really earn that situation. Who doesn't want to be Superwoman? I mean, let's be honest. Whether you're into superhero movies or not, envisioning yourself with a cape on just gives you that confidence booster of, you know what? Yes, I am Superwoman, and that's how I want to be. But at the same time, this is so affecting your natural balance. This is affecting everybody around you by you going too far and potentially even hurting yourself. Are you working so hard that it isn't natural and you ultimately have to pay the price health-wise or with your family, or worse, it's not even observed by other people. I think that's the biggest thing is we think everyone's paying so much more attention than they actually are. And so therefore we do some of these things to get the appreciation we want and then we don't. And that can be a bummer depending on how much expectation you have set on other people. So how do we start to fix superwoman situations? This has a lot to do with that external accountability. So where do you need validation that's not within yourself that you can start to think, okay, is that actually helping my happiness? Is that actually something I need? Do I need to hear this from someone? Do I need them to see that? How is it making my life better when they do? Sure, it feels good every once in a while to feel appreciated and to get that feedback, but is it actually doing something positive for your mindset? Or is it just overworking you? Is all that extra time, is all that extra effort that nobody's really absorbing doing anything good for you when they don't even see it and you're waiting for them to see it? Take a step back and really start to absorb that, and I think that's going to help you a ton if you're a superwoman or a superman. The next characteristic she talks about is the natural genius. This has happened. I actually can identify with this just a little bit. Not the natural genius, but you know how you see, I see some level of this. I don't think genius is the right word. You know how you see those list posts that are like the top 20 awesome people under 20 or the top 40 awesome people under 40, or, you know, awesome people is sort of like a general term, but you know what I'm saying, right? It's like the top 50 yoga instructors in the world under 50 and that kind of thing. I feel like this ageism situation in content is really scary because it is making us think we needed to be born to do something so that we could do it as fast as possible to get to that level of success for, again, external validation. And this is crappy, especially for young people who are thinking, I need to be a genius. I need to get straight A's. I need to get all the gold stars. I need to have all of these things happen to me so that I know that I was naturally good at something and I have a life purpose early on. That is so hard to deal with. I don't think growing up that I really went to the natural genius level, but I've talked about many times being frustrated by not knowing necessarily where I wanted to go or what I wanted to do when I was in high school, and having people around me who were like born to do something, or at least that's how it came off as they were growing up. I always talk about my friend Lewis, who was an incredible artist, and he would always be showing us up in art class in elementary school, and he went on to be an architect. And that is the kind of thing I'm talking about. You're not a natural genius, but you think you should be or you need to. And especially if you're a young person pressured by the college situation or testing and you want to get the best possible, best, or you're not worthy. That is imposter syndrome. A lot of this stuff that you're doing is really important to your education, let's say with the young person in school, but it may not necessarily be something that's going to help you in the real world down the road. So balancing the fact that yes, you need to be excellent at whatever you're choosing to do right now. You need to do it to your greatest ability. You get to live on this earth and you get to do that thing. So go to school, rock that school, right? Like do that. But at the same time, realize that things happen. You're not going to get every test question right. It happens. You're not perfect. Your memory is not like a computer. And that is okay. When you face that setback, you need to just take it in stride, let it happen, learn from the mistake if it's something you can learn from, and move forward. You have to see yourself as a work in progress. If you don't do that, it's going to be really difficult for you to be able to get through every day because it's all about knowing that there is more to this story. You're not perfect today. You're not going to be perfect tomorrow. And thank goodness, because every day would be pretty darn boring. You wouldn't have something to work toward. And this is about that journey. The next one is the soloist. And again, resonating over here. This is that person that's like, I'm good. I'm good on my own. Thanks. I got it. I've got this. And there's that sense of, if I don't do it myself, I feel like it didn't really happen. Or if I got too much help with it, it's like I didn't even accomplish it myself. And so this can be really difficult because, geez, it takes a lot of time to do everything yourself and you can't do it. And this is a conversation I have to have with myself every single day. Where can you ask for help? You are not good at everything. I think the one piece of this that has stuck with me is that growing up, I was always very independent. I had a hard time in school keeping friends, partially because of some school moving around that happened. And, you grow up and kids get mean and stuff like that. So I never really had somebody sticking by my side at any point. So that took a major toll on me and how I approach things. The other thing is that I was the only child in my parents' house that wasn't asked to move out. So I just was like, I'm out of here, you guys, at 18. And so that was a really important moment of learning how to be independent. And if I wanted to live by my own rules, then I needed to figure out how to do that on my own without asking for the help of my parents. Not because they wouldn't help me, but it was because I was feeling guilty that I made that decision so early on that it didn't feel right to ask them for things. So that taught me a lot about independence. And so grabbing on to the fact that I'm an independent woman, it's very easy to romanticize that and say, yeah, I just take care of stuff for myself. I think that's overall really important that you have a decent amount of that in your life. If you're too dependent on somebody, then that is a recipe for disaster. You can end up in a situation you shouldn't be in, something that's unhealthy and something that you may need to get out of at some point and you don't know how. But you also do need to rely on other people. And my husband tells me this all the time. He's here for me. And I know that. But from what I've experienced in my life, it's really hard for me to execute on that. So the big thing here to me is if you identify with this, if you identify as somebody that's like, I'm totally on my own, I'm on this island on my own, I'm doing it myself, like it or not, that's how it's going. Maybe appreciate some of those independent qualities that you have, but also really think to yourself how your life could be better, more full, and more efficient, quite frankly, by having great people around you to help. And the final characteristic or personality type that Dr. Young talks about is the expert. Maybe you've seen yourself think, oh, I would apply for that job. However, I can't check every single box. Or maybe you're constantly on the lookout for certifications or education of some kind so that you can add it to your list of skills. Maybe not only just to improve your skills, but to also let the world know about all your skills. Okay, this is the expert. And yet another shining example of how can we fill our time with something that may or may not matter. It could. It depends. What are your plans? How do you reverse engineer it? How do you make sure you're covered? But it's also a situation that is resonating throughout all of this of asking for help. And I think the reason that that's resonating through each of these characteristics is that when we ask for help, we are starting to let people know about a potential quality of an imposter. And if we ask, and if we say, I don't know the answer to that question, and if we say, hey, can you give me some advice on this, or can you help me with this? Then we start to let people know, oh crap, we can't do it all. And that can contribute to somebody feeling like an imposter. But at the same time, the beautiful thing is it will make you feel better and let that imposter syndrome subside, because the good people that you approach, the right people, the people who will truly help, will be the ones to make you feel better in that moment in some way, shape, or form that it's not necessarily something that you might have known, or it's not necessarily something that was expected of you. Don't feel shameful about it. Look for mentors, even if they're digital, like me. Maybe I'm a mentor of yours and we've never had a real conversation. Look for a career coach. Look for somebody that can give you some direction. Ask your coworker for help. Whatever the case may be, there's no shame in it. The more you practice the asking muscle, the easier it gets. I know this within my own self. It is getting easier as I practice. I still feel like I have a lot of things that have to happen before I'm like ready to ask for help. But I think that's good when you are thinking about, what are you doing to contribute? What are you doing to help people first? And it makes it a lot easier to ask people for help once you've done a really good job of that. I want to hear from you which one of these resonated the most. Go over to the Instagram at Details Podcast and let me know. Are you a perfectionist? Are you a superwoman? Are you a natural genius? Are you a soloist? Are you an expert? Maybe phrase it in a way that doesn't make people think that we're crazy, but I'll know what you're talking about when you say it, right? Like, oh God, I totally act like a soloist because, and let's talk about it, because you know that one of these is something that you have put out into the energy of the world with how you approach things and how you get things done. And it's okay. If we know who we are, we can lean into it and just improve a little bit more every single day and start to avoid imposter syndrome from even crossing our minds. And I know one more thing for sure about this. The more you practice anything, the less you feel like an imposter. Even if you're not as far along as where you think everybody else in the world is and everybody's highlight reel on Instagram is fabo, it's okay, because the more you do your thing, the more you stay focused on your thing, the less you will feel like an imposter. I hope this was a really helpful chat for you today, and I would love to offer you some more advice if you're interested in something else straight to your earbuds. That is my simple steps for living your best life every day with the free audio training of the 7 essential details for going after the life that you want. This is a little audiogram for you. If you subscribe to this podcast, take a screenshot of it and send that screenshot in an email to hello@detailspodcast.com with audiogram, please, in the subject line. And no strings attached, we'll get that audiogram over to you. Just to give you the inside scoop, we have a really jam-packed, awesome rest of season 3 coming for you. So get ready for it. In the next couple of episodes, I'm very excited. We're going to be talking with the one and only Gretchen Rubin. I even have a bonus podcast coming out for you that same week, right before, where me and my 2 best friends, Jesse and Sarah, sat down and retook the 4 tendencies quiz. If you don't know what I'm talking about, trust me, pay attention on Monday. You are going to love it. Monday, we have a pre-chat, and Tuesday will be my conversation with Gretchen Rubin. Next week is going to be so awesome. And there are a lot of awesome people to come. I am so excited to share these conversations with you, and I hope you're subscribed so you do not miss it. Thank you so much for tuning in. I appreciate it as always. If you would like to discover even more actionable details, head over to AMYTV by typing in your browser, youtube.com/AMYTV, or you can search for Amy Landino in the YouTube app. Make sure you subscribe for good vibes, kiss the ones you love, and go after the life that you want. Cheers.